All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you for another episode, if you will, of Executive Moms Behind the Scenes. I have a special guest today, Keely Bowling, and I'm so excited she's here. And we're going to talk, like, the point of this entire series is to sort of pull back the curtain about on what it's like to be a working mom and the experience of being a working mom at high levels and going after big goals and being ambitious. And so I'm excited for Keely here today, not just to talk about her own life and her own experience, but she is a wealth strategist. And so we're going to pull in this conversation around money as well, which I think is going to be highly valuable.
It's going to be some good stuff. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. I was just hearing an echo, so I think that was me because I had to turn off my LinkedIn. You can't have the LinkedIn going in the background at the same time.
All the things happening.
All the things happening at the same time, but I think we're good now. I love it. So tell us a little bit about you, Keely. Tell us a bit about how many kids you have. What do you do? Share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Keely Bowling, your friend in finance. I am a mom of two wild boys. I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old. I am very lucky to be able to be a working mom that works from home to kind of have the best of both worlds. I got into finance about 3 years ago, and I don't know, it's kind of changed my whole life, the way we kind of view life and the things that go with it. But I'm in Southern Indiana. I can help pretty much anyone in all 50 states, which is pretty cool. So I love just being able to get into a space and share some good value for you guys.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm curious, like I want to talk about motherhood and I want to talk about finance a little bit because I think for ambitious women, and the way I sort of categorize that is like people that just like women that have career goals, right? That have been likely very focused on their career prior to having kids and want to continue to be focused on their career after having kids, which is not everyone. And I want to acknowledge that that's totally not everyone, but that's kind of who we're talking about here right now, which means that they're usually like they're working their way up. They still have like a desire to kind of climb that ladder on whatever that looks like in their industry. And I think money becomes this untalked, like this untalked about. That's not the right phrase. I don't know what word. It's like something that's there because responsibility like goes through the roof when we become moms, and it's all tied up. You know, the golden handcuffs are real for women, and so I just think there's so much richness that we could talk about in this. But I want to hear, before we even get into some of that, you know, what's one challenge that you would say you have faced as you are balancing your career and motherhood, and tell us about how you navigated it.
Yeah, I think for me as a mother and kind of transitioning from, you know, pre-motherhood and then entering into it, I think the biggest thing I have struggled with in my working career is the fact that I have, you know, in certain seasons, you feel like you're kind of failing at both, because I think that for a lot of us, we're ingrained that to be mothers, we also have to sacrifice all these things. So when I was at work, and when I'm working, I was always thinking, oh my gosh, what am I missing with my kids? And then when I would be with my kids, I'm thinking about the to-do list of all the things I need to be doing at work or at home and balancing all of that. So it was this constant tug of war. And I mean, we all do it, even when we've been in the space for a while. It's something that doesn't necessarily always go away. But really, when I think about kind of the juggling act that we play in motherhood and the tug of war, one of my mentors had shared some advice with me in the thick of it. And her perspective on it is, when you're with your kids, you're building them. And when you are away from your kids, you're building for them. Because yes, as women, we are ambitious and we want these fabulous careers, but we also a lot of times have that tied to the families that we want and the things that we want our kids to know. So I've really tried to be where my feet are. It doesn't make me a bad mom because I'm working. And really, when we think about it, we think as moms, it's ingrained in us almost that you need to be spending all of this time with your kids. But really, when you look at it, it's not quantity of time all the time, it's quality. So even if you get an hour, 2 hours a night, as long as you are where your feet are, it really kind of helps level it out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
And I would love to hear if you are watching this live right now and there is something that's resonating with you. I mean, please drop that in the comments for us. We could see those. Or if there's a question that's coming up, would love to be able to answer that as we are on this stream here today as well. I think
Yeah.
I think the idea that we can't be successful at both is such a common experience. I would go so far, since we're, your expertise is in finances, to say, like, I can't make the amount of money that I want to make and be the mom that I want to be. Like, I can't hit those higher wealth goals, because I think there's such a connection between, I have to sort of go all in with all of my time and everything to hit those goals, and that would take away from my family. I'm curious what you have experienced yourself, or what your clients experience in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a huge piece when we talk about our ambition and motherhood of finding the right place. Because, really, when you look at it, you can still very much have a wonderful passion and be ambitious and have this really great career without really sacrificing it all. There are going to be seasons where your work-life balance isn't where you want it to be. But at the end of the day, I feel like you have to find the thing that makes it all worth it. And really, when you look at me, for example, in my career, I kind of toyed around with some different spaces. I started in education, thought that was going to be my end goal, and had my kids, and that's when my life kind of uprooted, and I was like, I'm not getting where I want to be because of where I'm at. So I think for women, we shouldn't be scared to stay in a place where we feel like we kind of have a ceiling. It's okay to be a mom and to want more. And I think it's really powerful to really assess what you want, be able to say, hey, I do want to be a present mom, but I also want to have a career. What options do I have to do both? Because there are so many out there. And a lot of them are probably making more than what you're going to be making at a traditional 9-to-5.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I think there's a linear belief around our like our money and wealth, that it's very much tied to our title and our job. But wealth goes far beyond that in terms of building wealth, not just making money. And I'm sure you differentiate between those two. How do you think about it?
There's ton. If you really look, people think about money just as income. And I think that's the biggest myth that we're told, because I can sit down with two people. I can have someone who's making 6-7 figures, and I can have sit down with someone who's making a modest income, and they can have two very different experiences. You don't have to be rolling in it to have the right structure in place to build real wealth. And that's the key. It's not income, it's structure. How is your money working? What are you utilizing? And that is your key to success. Like, that right there is the piece that separates all of us, right? We don't have to go and make a ton of money if we just know the right tools and the right resources in order to build true wealth like we want.
Yeah. Yeah. When you start talking to women that want to build more wealth, what is some of the starting conversations with them?
Yeah, if you really look, a lot of it comes down to just lack of education. A lot of us are taught like baseline things, right? Put your money in a bank, leverage your 401k, all of those key pieces. But if you really look, there's so much more out there that unless someone's sitting down and teaching us about it, we're not going to know. So I like to educate very much on financial fundamentals, right? How's your money growing? Where is your money growing? Are you in the market? Are you utilizing safe money solutions? How's your money taxed? And then really diving in. The cool part about us being a wealth strategist, we're a big picture business, right? I can really see where you are, where you want to be, and all the gaps in between. And that right there is kind of what unlocks everything. If I have a good understanding of finance and where I'm placed, it makes it so much easier to figure out where I'm going.
Yeah.
I
think for ambitious women, we know how to do this in other realms of our life, right? We know how to be the leader and the strategist, and to sort of take our goals, our career goals and things like that, and really go after it. But it's interesting when it comes to money, there's a big gap there. Do you find there's a gap gender wise, out of curiosity, between men and women?
I'm actually surprised in my experience with my book of business. I feel like I have a good, I would say 50-50, 60-40 split of, who's kind of handling the finances. I will say in my experience, though, even if women are the ones that are kind of doing the conversations and they're asking the questions, they still feel the need to be like talking to their spouse, because there is still that overarching of men need to tell me yes or no, in a sense. Like, that's the kind of sense that I feel like there are a lot. And I think it's very nice when you're a cohesive family unit, right? You guys have to be on the same page. But I think there is that of just the man kind of tries to take in and take over that role, where a lot of times, like, we really do want our hands in it.
Yeah. So I want to pivot for a second. I'm thinking back to my own kind of journey as a working mom. I remember back when I was going back to work after my daughter was born. And so she's 11 and a half right now. And so I was really, really feeling stuck in my career at that time. Knew I wanted to have a really impactful career, wanted to shift industries, all of these things, but it was this financial responsibility. I was the breadwinner of the family. I couldn't change things up, and now that it was easier to feel like I could make a move without kids. And now all of a sudden I can't do that. I can't do that. I mean, literally, I felt like I couldn't do it. It took almost a year for me to be able to leave that job. Because of that, and I'm curious how financial responsibility plays into this role, into this kind of journey as a working mom.
That's huge, really, if you look, because I think no matter who we are, there is that, right? We still have to pay our bills. And there is that piece that kind of keeps us in that space. But I would almost challenge, in a lot of cases, like, we have to be able to have a really nice structure in place with our finances. And when it's done the right way, it gives you the freedom to have those conversations and be like, okay, I have a really good 6 months of having an emergency fund, having a really nice structure in place so I can challenge and I can maybe pivot, maybe see what's out there. And I think that right there is the piece that we don't necessarily always have. We don't always have that really nice cushion for us to explore and to be not necessarily stuck in that position. I think that's what puts us a lot there. We like to live in the moment, which is great, but having really good structure and things in place that kind of have you in case you do need to kind of pivot, or if you are unhappy, as a mom, I really truly believe, and as a woman, if you are not fulfilled, you're not going to be present and fully the person you want to be with your kids anyway. So really, finance plays a huge role in us making a decision of, do I stay here and do I kind of suck it up and grind, or do I have the freedoms and the flexibility to go? So understanding, like, those things are going to be possible if you have the right tools and the right things in place for you.
I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure if it's you or if it's me. I'm muting you just to see if it's you. It actually went away as soon as I muted you. So I think it might be you. I'm not sure if it's being heard out there. So if you are live, if you could let us know in the comments if that buzzing is happening for you too, just so we could try to troubleshoot that while we're talking here too. Hold on. I still have you muted, Keely, just because of that. I'm going to unmute you now. Okay. Let's see if it goes away. The buzz is still a little bit there. So we'll roll with it. And if you're out there and it's really hard for you to hear us, let us know at the moment.
Let me know. I can transition. I can maybe move.
I'm not sure what it is exactly. Yeah, it has something to do with your microphone of some kind. So I am thinking about the transition that had to happen for me. I know there's a lot of women out there that want to transition into being into some sort of business for themselves, right? We're seeing an exodus of women leaving the traditional workforce, starting their own businesses, becoming coaches, you went into finance, being consultants, all of these different things. I love that. And for me, that was what I ended up doing. I ended up leaving that job that took me like a year to leave in order to go and be a contractor and then eventually start this coaching business and so forth. But and you had to have had a very similar experience in terms of leaving your teaching job and then moving into something for yourself. For me, I speak about that high level of responsibility. I had to get to a point where I had to sort of believe that my own happiness and my own joy and the goals that I had for myself were more important than the fear I was experiencing. Like, I was never going to let my family go hungry. I literally had to come back to that thought every once in a while. Like, I'm not going to kick my family out on the street. Like, if I have to go back to a traditional job, I'll go get a traditional job, right? But on some level, I had to kind of calm my nervous system down enough to get myself to a point where I could leave the traditional like paycheck and move into something that is definitely more volatile, a bit more up and down. And so I'm curious for you, I'm going to unmute you. Tell us a little bit about that experience of leaving being a teacher and into your own thing.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, it's so much better. So much better.
I changed my mic to make sure it worked. But I think that was if you really look, that was one thing that I also had to come to terms with. I wrestled with it for about a year as well, right? I was still teaching. I had one of those really great jobs in the teaching realm where I still had my evenings, I had my weekends, I had some breaks. So I could kind of stick my toe in and kind of see, okay, do I want to go this route? Can I build some of my resilience? And for me, you almost have to kind of figure out what your vision is. That's what's going to drive what you want. I didn't necessarily, when I started my own business and I went into finance, I didn't necessarily know exactly what in entirety I wanted, but I know I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Right.
Yeah.
And I knew for me, I kind of came to a point where I'm like, nothing changes unless something changes. Right. Like, and I knew that I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And really, we weren't going to kind of change, right? We were still going to stay at that very baseline level where I knew I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. And I also wasn't fulfilling what I wanted my family to truly look like. So for me, I think I'm very similar to you in the sense of I had to figure out, okay, what do I want my family to look like and what do I want? What's going to make me happy? And then I spent a lot of personal work on what does it look like to be your own boss? I was a great employee. So then moving into a space where I wasn't working for someone and I was kind of putting my needs above them all. It was a weird shift, but super, super fulfilling when I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the conversation you had to have with yourself around the money aspect of it?
Yeah. I think there is that piece of security that comes with their stable income, right?
Of course.
And
when we say security, like it's like your nervous system feels secure and stable, right? That's really what we're talking about. Like your body literally feels like it can feel safe, right? On some level. Mm-hmm.
Really. And I enjoyed that 2-week paycheck, right? Because then if things got tight, I knew I was going to get paid again on Friday. So for really the biggest switch I had to make for my mindset, I think, was identifying big picture. And I had to go. I sat down with my husband and we went over it multiple times. Like, what does our everyday life look like? And identifying, like, is a short-term sacrifice worth a long-term reward? Maybe when I make this switch and I pull the plug, I don't get paid every single 2 weeks. I get paid, once at the beginning, once at the end. But by golly, I'm still going to get paid, right? And I'm probably going to get paid more than I was getting paid in my case, right? Yeah. Like I was bringing home a measly paycheck. Let's just call it what it is. So in that case, I had to identify, okay, if I'm going to do this, am I going to pour in the work that I need to make it work? Because that's the difference, right? For a lot of us that step into a space where it's on you and you're starting something, you got to be willing to show up. Like we're not just going to leave our 9 to 5s and move into something. You're still going to be working that 9 to 5, just in a different realm, because you will show up for yourself better than you'll show up for somebody else. 100%.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you just have to decide, like, is that worth maybe a little inconsistency the first couple months? Do I have the stability for the first couple months, which we did? So why not?
Why not? Why not? You're worth, I mean, you're worth it. Your happiness is worth it. Your goals are worth it. Like, I think about how going after the business that I wanted and the wealth that was possible for me through this business is literally paving the way for my kids, particularly for my daughter, to be able to step out untraditionally if she would like to do that, and go after her own big goals, right? Like, I really do see it as something generational that I am providing for my kids.
That's huge. That's huge. And that's a lot of my vision here. But really, when you look, I think 3 years ago when I made the switch and pivoted to now, it's really cool going back and revisiting the version of me 3 years ago, because at that time, I would argue my nervous system was at some of its worst moments, right? I was stressed. My to-do list was overflowing. I was bringing work home. And then on top of having a new baby that I'm trying to make sure they get the most from me, like, I was a wreck.
Yeah.
I was a wreck as a person. So yes, there were hurdles at the beginning of stepping into this career, but looking at where I'm at now, I would take those hurdles every single day to get my nervous system to a place where I am a present mom. I am a business owner, and I'm a great wife. I'm a great friend. Like, I wouldn't have been in the capacity, and I wouldn't have the capacity I have now if I wouldn't have been like, I'm tired of living this way.
So if you had to name one thing that you had to let go of in order to help you go after this career and to ultimately thrive in sort of both roles in life, what would you say?
Guilt.
Okay.
I carried a lot of guilt with
in the transition, or just overarching mom guilt. Whenever I'm away from my kid, I feel guilty.
I think it's all of that. Really, I think looking at those pieces, there were ways that I was guilt tripping myself when I wasn't. It wasn't like super loud. That's, I think, that the piece when we talk about mom guilt is it can be so quiet, right? I felt guilty for one more because there were pieces where I did have to sacrifice some things. I felt guilt that I wasn't always home to cook dinner and give them baths every night at the beginning. I didn't, I was guilty because I felt guilty because I would come home and I worked from home, which is a blessing. But then I'm home, so I felt like my home should look like I'm at home.
Right.
My husband would come home and he'd be like, "Hey, a bomb went off here," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I didn't do enough."
Yeah. Absolutely.
So understanding, I think that twist, that difference between no matter where you're working, you're still working, and being where your feet are helps with that guilt piece, because I don't have to be perfect in every single area, and I don't have to get every season right. It's just identifying what are your priorities in each season, so that way you can adjust accordingly. And that's where my guilt kind of goes on.
I mean, I think from both of our stories, I'm hearing so much of the importance of clarity around this, clarity of like vision of what it is you want, what matters to you, clarity on what your priorities are, clarity around what your goals are, your wealth goals are, what your career goals are, and I would even say goals as a mom. I can't instill every value in my kid, and I don't even want to, right? So I'm going to choose which ones I'm sort of going all in on, and like, that's how this is going to work. And I've even told them that it's like, these are the things that really matter to me. And this is why we might be different than other families, but this is what's so important about this. And they're the ones I'm like, at the end of the day, they're going to know, they're going to grow up with. Right. But all of that clarity doesn't come sort of in the moment. It comes when we step outside of the moment. We do some of this reflection. Right.
Yeah.
And we think through what is our goals and what are our priorities and what matters to us, right? There's actually time of reflection and thinking, and maybe journaling or writing or doing exercises or doing coaching or something that helps you to set that. And I would say, for sure, for me as a coach, that's so much of the work that I do is I work with clients around like, what does balance really mean to you? What really matters to you in your job? Let's talk about your day-to-day priorities and your day-to-day values and which ones actually matter. Which ones are we going to let go of? Let's get clear on that, right? We have to start with clarity. And I would imagine for you in wealth, it starts with getting clear on what your goals are and where you want to be when you retire or whatever that, you know, what legacy you want to give to your kids, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the biggest step that I think people don't necessarily fully understand. And that's the one piece I see as the biggest hole in the boat. We know how to spend money and we know kind of a roundabout idea of where our money's going, but we're not clear on it. So unless you are very clear on where your money is and how it's aligned with the goals that you have for yourself, it makes it extremely hard for you to get where you want to.
Yeah. Yeah,
right? You can't hit a target. You can't.
I mean, you're just guessing. You're just hoping that you're going to get where you want to go, you know?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about what you have. So we were talking about sort of these wealth sessions, which I would imagine actually goes a lot along with clarity, right? So tell us a little bit about that. And I'm dropping the links here for people to schedule one if they want. What are these wealth sessions?
Yeah, so I'm super excited. I am offering a having both strategy session with me. So if you look at me as a wealth strategist, you know, I am a big picture person. I want to know what your goals are. I want to know really where you're at, where you want to go, what you want for your kids, and the legacy you leave behind. I think a lot of times when people think about finance, they think I can't live for the present and build for tomorrow. And that I think is the biggest thing and the biggest lie that we have been told. You don't have to sacrifice everything you're doing now to build a legacy that you want. And that's really what I want to chat with all of you about, right? You can have both. You just need the right structure and you need the right clarity. And these are just 30-minute sessions that we can kind of chat about your goals. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you want for your kids. What do you want for your life? And then, hey, let's go to the drawing board. Let's see if there are ways that maybe we could accelerate it, maybe give you some clarity. But I am your friend in finance for a reason. I love just being able to see where you're at, maybe patch holes to where you're going. Very laid back, just conversations that are finance related.
I love it. I love it. And I'm dropping a link to my email list. So if you want to hear more about these LinkedIn Lives, executive moms behind the scenes, I have a number of them coming up. I'm also just building like a really fun, supportive email community where I'm sharing lots of strategies and tips and podcasts and all of the things. I would love to have you on that email list. So I am dropping a link to that as well. You can find that in the comments there. Thank you so much, Keeli, for being here, for just having an honest conversation around being a mom and being an owner of a business, talking about money, all of the things. I just really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy our conversations, Rebecca, and just the space you give to moms and to women to be their best selves and chase for what they really want in life. That's a big thing we need.
I love it. If you have, if you're going to be watching this once this has gone live, you're watching the replay, by all means, put those comments. We will still come back and answer your questions and be in contact about whatever you need related to being an executive mom or building wealth. We love it. All right, working moms, till next one. See you later.